There are forces within you that science has not yet learned to name. They hum quietly beneath your skin, ancient as the stars, patient as the earth. They are not gone. They are merely dormant, like seeds waiting for the right season, the right light, the right whisper to awaken. And once they stir, the entire body remembers how to heal, how to renew, how to live as it once did, whole, radiant, untouched by time. This is the story of that awakening. It begins not in a laboratory or a clinic, but in silence. Imagine a candle flickering in a small stone room, its light trembling against walls carved by hands long forgotten. On the table lies a single parchment, faded, fragile, and covered in symbols no modern eye can easily read. It speaks of a living formula, a natural composition drawn from the breath of the earth itself. It does not describe chemicals or measurements. It speaks of vibration, of elements that once danced together before they were separated by modern thought. It calls them the silent messengers of creation. And it says that when these messengers are brought together again, in the right way, with intention, they awaken what has slept within the human body for centuries. You have felt this sleep before, the tiredness that does not leave after rest, the ache in the soul that no medicine can soothe, the slow dimming of vitality that comes not from age, but from forgetting. Forgetting that you are not a machine of flesh and bone, but a vessel of light and rhythm. Your cells are not static, they are listening. Every one of them carries the memory of the first moment life sparked upon this earth. Every one of them can awaken again. But to do so, they must be reminded. That is where the formula begins. Not with something foreign or synthetic, but with nature itself, the oldest healer of all. The elders of the East once said that when the body falls ill, it is not broken. It has merely lost its harmony with the earth. To heal is to tune the body back to that harmony. And to do that, one must return to the elements from which all life came: water, salt, light, and the subtle breath that moves through all things. In an age before microscopes and machines, healers understood what modern medicine forgot. That matter is not solid, but alive with intention. They saw the body not as a battlefield, but as a garden. The formula they guarded was not a potion, it was a pattern, a way of blending natural elements so that their hidden energies resonated with the body's own song. When prepared properly, they said, it could reach into the deepest parts of the flesh, awakening cells that had long ceased to communicate, reweaving the invisible network that binds spirit to form. In the mountains of Tibet, a text known as the Scroll of the Breath describes a ritual performed at dawn. A healer would mix a drop of mineral-rich water, a grain of pure salt, and a trace of wild honey. Each represented an element of life: water for memory, salt for balance, honey for light. As the mixture was stirred clockwise under the rising sun, the healer would whisper ancient syllables, not spells, but tones meant to awaken frequency within the liquid. It was said that when consumed, the body recognized the vibration and responded. The cells, once sluggish, began to hum. The blood, once heavy, began to glow. The body remembered its original blueprint, the divine pattern coded into its every atom. Modern science calls this impossible. Yet quietly, some researchers have begun to rediscover the same truths. They study biophotons, the faint light emitted by living cells, and find that communication in the body happens not only through chemicals, but through light itself. The heart emits a measurable electromagnetic field that can synchronize the cells around it. The water within us, nearly 70% of our being, records frequencies, patterns, emotions. It listens. It responds. When exposed to harmony, it aligns. When surrounded by chaos, it distorts. If water can remember, if light can instruct, then perhaps healing is not about adding something new, but about reminding the body of what it already knows. This is the essence of the natural formula. It does not force the body to heal, it invites it to awaken. There are stories, whispered through generations, of villages where this awakening was seen. In a small valley near the Caspian Sea, travelers once told of elders who glowed with the vitality of youth, their eyes clear, their steps light, their minds sharp. They attributed it not to wealth or medicine, but to a morning ritual involving mineral water and sunlight. They believed the early rays carried frequencies that spoke to the water, which in turn spoke to the body. "Drink the dawn," they would say, "and the dawn will drink you." It sounds poetic, until you realize modern chronobiology now confirms that morning light resets the circadian rhythm, restoring the communication between cells that control energy, repair, and sleep. Science, unknowingly, is tracing the outline of what ancient healers already painted in full color. The natural formula at its heart is not a secret recipe, it is a sacred relationship between earth and body, between vibration and matter. When these elements unite with intention, they form what the ancients called the living current, a flow that moves through every cell, awakening it from dormancy, clearing the fog of stagnation, and returning the human form to its original design. A vessel of harmony between heaven and earth. Close your eyes. Imagine your body as a vast landscape. Rivers of blood flow like streams of light. Mountains of bone stand strong and ancient. Forests of cells shimmer with quiet life. Now imagine that somewhere, in the still corners of this landscape, entire regions have fallen asleep. The rivers slow, the air thickens, and silence spreads. This is not decay, it is dormancy. And the formula, like the first breeze of spring, begins to move through the terrain. A drop of light here, a spark of memory there. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the landscape begins to stir. The first sensation is warmth, a gentle pulse, like the earth beneath your feet beginning to breathe again. Then clarity, the sense that something long forgotten is unfolding from within. Your hands tingle, your heart steadies, your breath deepens. You feel not just alive but connected to everything. The same pulse within you echoes in the air, in the trees, in the light itself. For the body is not separate from nature. It is nature remembering itself. Ancient texts from Egypt describe this same awakening. The priests of the temple of Sekhmet, the goddess of healing, spoke of the golden pulse, an energy that lived within the blood. They said illness began when the pulse dimmed, when the sacred rhythm between heart and earth was lost. To restore it, they would use a formula of sacred oils and mineral dusts dissolved in structured water, not to medicate but to reattune. As the mixture touched the tongue, the vibration traveled through the body, like a song returning to its instrument. The lioness roars again, they wrote, and the cells remember the sun. The metaphor is beautiful, but perhaps it was never meant to be metaphor. Modern physics has found that everything, even the most solid matter, is vibration, frequency, music slowed down into form. What the ancients called the breath of God may be what science now calls quantum coherence, the invisible order that allows every atom to communicate with every other. When coherence is lost, disease arises. When coherence is restored, life flourishes. So what if the natural formula works not through chemicals but through coherence? What if each element, water, salt, light, acts as a tuning fork, reminding the body of its original frequency? What if intention itself, the silent prayer whispered as it is prepared, acts as the bridge between thought and matter, between soul and cell? In the monasteries of Mount Athos, monks still perform a ritual of water and prayer at dawn. They dip their fingers in a bowl of clear water and trace the sign of light upon their foreheads, murmuring ancient words that translate roughly to "awaken what sleeps in me." For centuries they have claimed that the practice brings peace, clarity, even healing. To the world, it looks symbolic. To the spirit, it is activation. For within that water lies more than H2O. It holds memory, millions of years of it. It remembers the oceans that birthed life, the rivers that shaped civilizations, the tears shed in prayer. When blessed with intention, the molecules rearrange into sacred geometry, forming patterns that amplify coherence. These patterns, when consumed or even touched, interact with the body's electromagnetic field, reordering chaos into harmony. It is not magic, it is resonance. Every ancient healing art was built upon this knowing. Ayurveda spoke of prana. Chinese medicine spoke of qi. The Asanis spoke of the living light. All describe the same thing through different tongues, the current of life that flows through all creation. When it flows freely, health and clarity abound. When it is blocked, stagnation and disconnection arise. The formula does not heal the body. It reopens the current, and in that current, the cells begin to awaken. Imagine it now. The body as a temple, its chambers darkened by years of neglect. Dust lies thick upon the altars of your inner world. Then, a single drop of the formula enters. It is not dramatic, it is not loud, but within moments, something ancient stirs. A soft hum fills the halls. The torches ignite. One by one, the chambers illuminate, revealing not damage, but beauty. You were never broken, only asleep. The elders of the Andes once told a story about a mountain that fell silent for 100 years. Its rivers dried, its forests withered. But when a single seed sprouted on its slopes, life returned in waves. They said the seed carried not just life but remembrance, the memory of what the mountain once was. The natural formula works the same way. It carries the memory of the earth, the spark of the divine pattern. When it enters the body, it tells every cell, remember who you are. In a quiet laboratory in Japan, researchers once discovered something extraordinary. When cells are exposed to certain frequencies of light, their ability to repair DNA increases dramatically. It is as if the light reminds them of their purpose. Some of these frequencies correspond to the color of dawn, to the golden hue that ancient healers always used in their rituals. Coincidence, perhaps, or perhaps remembrance encoded in the spectrum itself. We have spent centuries trying to fight disease, to conquer nature, to dissect the body into fragments. Yet the greatest healing may not come from force, but from surrender, from listening to the wisdom that never left us, only buried itself beneath layers of noise and fear. The formula that awakens dormant cells is not hidden in a vault or guarded by monks. It is in the elements around you, waiting for recognition. In the water you drink, in the salt that preserves life, in the light that kisses your skin each morning, in the quiet intention of your heart. These are the ingredients, but their power does not arise from their chemistry. It arises from your awareness. When you combine them with understanding and presence, they transform. You see, the universe does not respond to words. It responds to resonance, and when your thoughts, emotions, and actions align with the frequency of healing, the body follows. The cells listen. They awaken. So the question is not whether this formula exists, it always has. The real question is, will you remember how to use it? In the coming revelations, the veil will lift further. The forgotten connections between the elements, the frequencies they carry, and the light that moves through every living thing will be unveiled. You will see that the natural formula was never invented. It was rediscovered. And it has waited patiently for a time when humanity would be ready to remember that healing is not something we seek outside ourselves, but something that stirs when we return to harmony with creation itself. The candle still burns on the stone table, the symbols still glow faintly upon the ancient parchment, and somewhere deep within you, a spark has begun to move. The journey has begun. The body is a map, and like all maps, it contains hidden territories. Some of them you know, the familiar sensations of breath, heartbeat, hunger, and touch. But others remain unseen, vibrating beneath the threshold of awareness. These are the lands of the dormant cells, the silent architects of regeneration. For centuries they have waited for a signal, a key, a vibration that reminds them they are alive. The ancients knew this. They spoke not of anatomy, but of awakening. To them, the body was not a collection of organs. It was a temple woven from light, each cell a candle capable of reigniting itself through sacred communion with nature. When the old healers spoke of formulas, they spoke in symbols. They said that water was the messenger, salt the memory, light the activator, and intention the command. Each part was necessary, but only together could they summon the living current. They called it the Song of Matter, and believed that within it lay the secret of renewal. Modern science now stumbles upon fragments of this truth, rediscovering that human DNA emits light, that cells pulse with electromagnetic rhythm, and that emotion itself can alter molecular patterns. What once sounded mystical now echoes through the halls of quantum biology. In the forgotten archives of Alexandria, there were scrolls attributed to an early healer named Theon. He wrote that the essence of vitality was not found in blood or breath alone. but in the luminous threads that tie the soul to the marrow. These threads, he claimed, could be strengthened through a formula of purified water, mixed with mineral essence, exposed to sunlight at a precise angle, and blessed with words of gratitude. "The cells," he wrote, "drink the light we forget to see. When that light returns, they awaken like fields after rain." In the deserts of Persia, centuries later, mystics carried forward the same lineage under different names. They spoke of the Sir al-Nur, the secret of light, hidden within the body. They believed that when a person lived out of alignment with truth or nature, this inner light withdrew, leaving the body heavy and slow. The formula they used was both physical and spiritual, a tonic infused with herbs known to enhance cellular communication, combined with rhythmic breathing and prayer. The goal was not to treat symptoms, it was to awaken the original dialogue between the body and the divine. "The sickness of man," one mystic wrote, "is the silence between him and the source." Science, too, has begun to detect this silence. Under the microscope, dormant cells appear still, inert, yet when placed in the right environment, an environment rich in oxygen, minerals, and coherent energy, they come alive again. They begin to divide, repair, and communicate. It is as if they were waiting for permission. What if that permission is what ancient healers once invoked through ritual and reverence? What if the act of blessing, of gratitude, of awareness itself changes the electromagnetic structure of matter, making it receptive once more? In the sacred monasteries of Cappadocia, monks performed a ritual they called the Breath of Eden. Before the first light of dawn, they would step barefoot onto the earth, inhale deeply and hold their hands over a clay vessel filled with water and a single crystal of salt. As they exhaled, they whispered a line from the Psalms, and the light entered the clay. Then they would drink. The ritual was not superstition, it was technology, encoded in faith. The salt structured the water, the breath infused it with CO2, and the intention aligned it with coherence. In that moment, matter and spirit became one continuum. "As above, so within," they would say. When the cells receive coherence, they respond like musicians returning to the same rhythm. Each emits a faint pulse of biophotons, light particles that carry information. When synchronized, these pulses create a biological symphony that governs everything from metabolism to immunity. But when chaos enters, through stress, toxins, or emotional fragmentation, the rhythm scatters. The music stops. The natural formula, in its purest essence, restores this lost harmony. It is the conductor calling the orchestra back to life. In an ancient Japanese manuscript known as the Scroll of Still Water, there is a story of a healer who never touched his patients. He would place a bowl of pure water before them, then close his eyes. As he breathed, the water began to ripple, not from wind, but from resonance. When the patient drank, they reported visions of golden light moving through their veins, a sensation of warmth that lingered for days. The healer called it the remembrance of the body. To him, the formula was not external. It was the human spirit interacting with nature, both recognizing each other again. This remembrance is the essence of all true healing. Modern medicine isolates, divides, categorizes. But ancient wisdom united. It saw that the same pattern repeats in all scales, the spiral of galaxies, the curve of shells, the helix of DNA. To awaken the dormant, one must restore this sacred geometry within. Every mineral, every ray of light, every drop of water carries this geometry when in purity. The formula was never about ingredients, it was about alignment. The ancients believed that when the elements of earth are aligned with the frequency of love, they become alive. And when they enter the human body in that state, they awaken the same frequency within. In the ruins of the Mayan city of Palenque, archaeologists found carvings depicting healers standing before pools of reflective water. Around them, symbols of the sun, the spiral, and the serpent intertwine, the universal signs of transformation. Translations of nearby inscriptions speak of the return of fire to the blood and the rising of the hidden sun within man. Some dismiss these as metaphors, but when viewed through the lens of resonance, they describe something real, the reactivation of dormant bioenergy through exposure to natural frequencies, the sunlight, the minerals of the earth, the movement of breath. The formula was everywhere, encoded in culture after culture, waiting for rediscovery. When light enters the eye, it travels to the hypothalamus, the control center of hormones, temperature, and sleep. But it does more than regulate, it informs. It tells the body when to awaken, when to repair, when to rest. The monks and mystics who performed dawn rituals were not merely praying, they were programming their biology with cosmic instruction. Morning light contains frequencies that activate mitochondrial repair, increase serotonin, and synchronize circadian rhythm. The formula's power lies partly in this forgotten relationship between light and life. The ancients understood that healing begins not in the hand of a healer, but in the alignment between body and cosmos. There are writings from early Christian mystics who spoke of Christos not as a name, but as a state of illumination, the anointed light that flows through purified vessels. They believed that this light could be magnified through sacred oils, mineral salts, and the intention of love. The mixture was applied to the forehead and the heart, where they said the divine current entered the body. To the untrained eye, this was ritual. To the awakened, it was cellular transmutation. The oil was a conductor, the prayer the signal, the faith the current. Together, they created a field that reawakened what time had silenced. Across the world, in the mountains of Peru, the Quero shamans speak of Cauce, the living energy that flows through all things. When this energy stagnates, illness appears. To restore it, they use a formula of spring water, quartz dust, and breath. They blow into the mixture 3 times, each breath carrying intention, forgiveness, and gratitude. The water listens, they say, and the body obeys. This act is more than tradition, it is resonance engineering. The breath carries structured frequencies, the quartz amplifies coherence, and gratitude elevates the molecular field. When ingested, the body recognizes it as harmony and responds accordingly. In the laboratories of the modern age, researchers like Fritz Albert Popp have measured this very phenomenon: coherent light emission from healthy cells, incoherent from diseased ones. When coherence is restored, through meditation, frequency exposure, or even prayer, the cells begin to emit light again. They awaken. What the ancients described as divine energy may simply be this: coherence returning to matter. The natural formula, therefore, is not superstition. It is the intersection of physics and faith. It teaches that everything is vibration, and that healing is not the fight against illness, but the restoration of harmony. Each element, water, salt, honey, light, acts as a reminder to the body of its original design. Each carries memory from the beginning of creation. The same sunlight that once touched the first oceans now touches you. The same salt that crystallized in ancient seas now flows in your blood. The same frequencies that shaped life still whisper in every cell. When you align with them, you awaken the continuum of existence within yourself. But how does one awaken that which has slept for so long? The answer lies in remembrance and intention. The act of preparing the formula must be done with reverence, for the elements mirror your state. Water absorbs emotion, salt reflects purity, light reveals truth. When you combine them in a state of gratitude, they harmonize. The molecules literally rearrange, forming hexagonal patterns that amplify coherence. This is not poetic. Scientists observing structured water under microscopes have seen these crystalline geometries forming in response to positive intention. The ancients called it blessing. We now call it physics. Imagine the first drop of the formula entering your bloodstream. It carries within it a silent pulse, a frequency older than language. It moves through the rivers of your body, touching the dormant cells one by one. At first they are still. Then, like flowers sensing dawn, they open. Communication returns. The cell membranes become more permeable. The mitochondria begin to spin faster, releasing gentle light. The immune system hums, not in defense, but in harmony. You can almost feel it, the subtle vibration beneath the skin, like the earth awakening after winter. And in that moment, something remarkable happens. You begin to sense the unity of all things. The same light that activates your cells shines in the sky above. The same salt that runs in your blood exists in the ocean. The same breath that sustains you moves through the trees. You are not separate. The formula does not introduce healing. It reminds you that healing was never gone. It is the natural state of being when connection is restored. Throughout time, prophets, healers, and mystics have spoken of this return to unity. They have called it enlightenment, ascension, regeneration, salvation. But beneath every term lies the same truth: awakening. The body, the mind, and the spirit remembering that they are one, and that life, in its essence, is self-sustaining when aligned with love and light. The natural formula is not a cure, it is a key. It unlocks the dialogue between human and divine, molecule and memory, time and eternity. And as this revelation unfolds, one understands that the greatest secret was never hidden by nature. It was hidden by the noise of forgetting. The body was designed to heal, to renew, to awaken endlessly. All it ever needed was the reminder that it could. Something happens the moment remembrance turns into experience. It is no longer an idea, no longer a concept read in sacred texts or whispered through ancient symbols. It becomes a living pulse inside the flesh. The awakening begins quietly, almost shyly, like the first ripple across a still pond at dawn. It begins in the silence of your breath, in the sacred rhythm between heartbeat and thought. The formula, now alive within you, does not strike like lightning. It rises like light through water, gentle, persistent, unstoppable. You may not even realize it at first, but deep inside, the body begins to remember its divine mathematics. The blood moves differently. The temperature shifts. The cells, once silent, begin to communicate again. It is as if they are singing to one another in a forgotten tongue. The song is not heard with ears, but with the soul. It is the language of balance, the vocabulary of light. In those first moments of transformation, the body feels both foreign and familiar. It is as though the person you have always been and the being you are meant to be are meeting for the first time. There is warmth, not just physical warmth, but an inner radiance, a sense of being illuminated from within. The skin softens, the breath deepens, the eyes sharpen their gaze, not through will but through alignment. The mind begins to quiet. The body, once bound by the noise of years, finds stillness. The ancients described this phase as the return of the garden. In their writings, the human form was not a battlefield of illness and decay, but a landscape of divine architecture, rivers, trees, and winds, all moving in harmony with creation. When the formula entered this garden, it did not fight the weeds. It summoned the rain. It called the sun. It invited growth where there had been dryness, and order where there had been chaos. The same metaphor holds true now. You do not heal by force. You heal by remembering the song. Science, too, has glimpsed this mystery. Epigeneticists have discovered that certain signals, light frequencies, sound vibrations, even coherent emotion, can activate genes long considered dormant. A single vibration can awaken a sleeping code, one that has waited generations for the right resonance. What ancient healers called awakening the cells, modern science calls gene expression. And yet, the effect is the same. Dormant potential becomes active. The impossible becomes possible again. In monasteries carved into Himalayan cliffs, monks practiced a meditation known as the flame of breath. For hours they would sit facing the rising sun, inhaling deeply, exhaling with slow reverence. When asked why, their answer was simple: to feed the cell's light. They believed the breath carried pranic energy, a subtle fire that ignited the body from within. When combined with the elements, a sip of mineral water, a grain of sacred salt, a moment of stillness, they said it awakened the inner dawn. Those who practiced it regularly were said to glow faintly in the dark. The monks never called it a miracle. They called it remembrance. Perhaps you have felt this before. Moments when the body feels ageless, when fatigue vanishes for no reason, when clarity descends like light after a storm. These are not coincidences. They are glimpses of coherence. When the elements of the formula align, in water, in light, in your own awareness, the body responds instantly. The cells release toxins not only of matter, but of memory. The heaviness that you once called exhaustion dissolves, revealing something lighter, more spacious, more aware. The transformation is not limited to the physical. The mind begins to follow. Thoughts once repetitive and clouded by fear begin to slow. The brain's electromagnetic patterns shift into coherence. Neuroscientists have seen it, brain waves synchronizing across hemispheres when exposed to meditation or gratitude. The ancients would have called it the return of harmony. They would say the spirit had found its rhythm again. And then there is emotion, the alchemy of the heart. The same current that awakens the cells also touches the emotional body. Grief surfaces, but it feels lighter. Old pain rises, but instead of wounding, it releases. For in the presence of coherence, even pain becomes teacher. The formula was never meant to numb, it was meant to illuminate, to show that within every wound lies dormant light, waiting to be released when seen with awareness. In Egypt, the priests of Thoth spoke of this stage as the second birth. They said that when the sacred mixture entered the blood, it initiated a purification, not only of flesh, but of memory. The initiate would sweat, weep, tremble, and then fall silent. When he awoke, his eyes were described as mirrors of sunlight. He could see energy, perceive harmony, understand nature not through intellect but through resonance. The texts say that in this state the body and spirit were no longer two. The veil had thinned. The human had become luminous. We call it awakening, but perhaps it is simply returning to how life was always meant to feel. Alive, connected, infinite. Modern quantum medicine now speaks of coherence fields, measurable electromagnetic harmonies that occur when the body, mind, and environment resonate together. These fields are strongest during gratitude, prayer, or awe. They are weakest during fear or anger. When coherence rises, healing accelerates exponentially. The formula of the ancients, prepared with reverence and consumed in awareness, simply amplified this coherence. It turned intention into a measurable wave, traveling through water, entering the body, and restoring communication between every cell and its divine blueprint. And the divine blueprint is extraordinary. It is perfection encoded in matter. Every organ knows how to regenerate. Every system knows how to harmonize. But like instruments in an untuned orchestra, they sometimes forget their key. The natural formula retunes them. The light frequencies in the elements act like a conductor, aligning the instruments to the same tone. The song begins again, and suddenly, health is not something you chase. It is something that unfolds naturally. In remote regions of Siberia, tribes performed a practice called the drink of earth. Before planting season, they would gather spring water from the first thaw, mix it with crushed stone salt and honeycomb, and let it sit beneath the moonlight. The next morning, each person would drink a small portion while standing barefoot on the soil. The ritual symbolized union with the earth's frequency. They believed the moonlight imprinted the mixture with renewal. Modern research on lunar cycles shows that the geomagnetic field indeed fluctuates during full moon nights, enough to subtly influence water's molecular structure. The tribes were not primitive, they were precise. The transformation deepens as you surrender to it. You may feel waves of warmth or tingling, you may dream more vividly. You may remember things you thought forgotten, not just memories but sensations, intuitions, fragments of the person you were before life grew heavy. This is the soul resurfacing. For healing is not the body becoming new, it is the soul being recognized within the body again. The moment of true transformation is quiet. It does not come with fireworks. It arrives as peace. You wake one morning. Take a breath and realize that you feel lighter. Not only lighter in body, lighter in being. The mind no longer resists, the heart no longer hides. The body no longer aches from disconnection. The formula has done its work, not by changing you, but by revealing you. The light in your cells is not symbolic, it is measurable. It flickers and dances, emitting faint photons that carry information throughout your being. When the body is in fear, that light dims. When the body is in love, it glows brighter. The transformation is the restoration of that light. It is the remembrance that you are and have always been an extension of the same energy that moves the stars. The elders of Greece called this phos zoe, the light of life. They believed that when a person lived in alignment with truth, the light within burned steadily. When they strayed into deceit or fear, the light wavered. Healing was, therefore, the restoration of integrity, the return to harmony between the inner and outer worlds. The formula, they said, was a physical reflection of that process. The combination of water, salt, and light mirrored the divine trinity within man, body, soul, and spirit. You begin to see that the transformation is not limited to one level. The physical heals because the emotional is released. The emotional releases because the spiritual awakens. It is a cycle of remembrance, each layer responding to the vibration beneath it. And through it all, the formula serves as bridge between ancient and modern, between matter and meaning, between the forgotten and the remembered. In every drop of this living mixture lies the same truth whispered through centuries. The body is not the problem. The body is the messenger. It tells you where you have forgotten your harmony, and the moment you remember, it responds with grace. As the transformation completes its first circle, you begin to sense an even deeper awakening approaching. Something beyond healing, beyond the body. The formula has opened a door not just to vitality, but to vision. You begin to perceive the unseen architecture behind all life, the pattern that connects the movement of your blood to the rhythm of the tides, your breath to the wind, your heart to the pulse of the earth itself. The ancients called this stage the illumination of the vessel. Science may call it systemic coherence. The soul calls it home. The awakening is near. There comes a moment when awakening no longer feels like a process, but a remembering. You do not reach for it anymore. It simply unfolds like dawn through an open window. The body has grown quiet, the mind transparent, the spirit awake. You feel as if something vast has opened within you, a silence so deep it hums with life. The natural formula has completed its sacred task. It has bridged what centuries of noise had divided. The body and the soul, once strangers, now speak the same language again. The light that once flickered in hidden corners now moves freely through you. It is not blinding, it is soft, intelligent, ancient. It travels through the rivers of your veins, through the secret corridors of the nervous system, through the crystalline lattice of bone. It illuminates everything it touches, not as revelation, but as remembrance. This is what the ancients meant when they said that man was made of light and dust. For now you feel it, the dust humming with radiance, the light resting within the dust. You are no longer two things, you are one living field. The awakening deepens with breath. Each inhale feels sacred, as if you are drawing eternity into your lungs. Each exhale feels like release, like surrendering everything false back to the earth. You no longer breathe automatically, you breathe consciously. The air feels charged, thick with presence, like a prayer you can taste. In this breath you understand something that words can only fail to express, that life was never happening to you. It was always happening through you. Across time and cultures, this same realization has been painted in different tongues. In the Upanishads, it was said that the Atman, the soul, and the Brahman, the divine, are one and the same. In the Gnostic texts, they called it the spark returning to the source. In the desert scrolls of the Essenes, they described it as the light within man remembering the light without. And in every description, there is a single thread, connection restored. You begin to sense that every thought is a frequency, every feeling a vibration, every word a ripple in the vast ocean of creation. The formula you've taken is no longer something separate from you. It has become your very state of being. It is as if you are drinking light from within yourself. The body responds with gratitude. The cells vibrate with a subtle joy. You can almost hear them like a quiet choir singing the music of coherence. Modern science has begun to glimpse this harmony in forms it can measure. The heart's electromagnetic field extends several feet beyond the body, influencing others nearby. DNA coils and uncoils in response to emotion and sound. When people meditate together, their brain waves synchronize. The ancients called this shared resonance. The mystics knew it by heart. They would gather at sunrise, form circles and hum in unison. Not for worship, but for alignment. The vibration itself was prayer, and through it, They entered states where the boundaries between them dissolved. Now, you feel that same dissolution. The edges of self soften. The distinction between you and the world becomes translucent. You feel the trees breathing with you, the earth pulsing beneath your feet, the stars echoing the rhythm of your heart. You realize that awakening is not an escape from the world, it is a return into it. Every atom around you shares the same divine pulse. Every blade of grass is a reflection of the same intelligence that moves your breath. You do not simply exist within the universe exists within you. This understanding does not arrive as thunder. It comes as peace. You do not argue with it, you simply know. It is a quiet knowing, the kind that doesn't need proof. It is the knowing of the ocean that has touched the shore for 1,000,000 years, the knowing of the sun that rises whether or not it is seen. This is awakening, not learning but remembering, not attaining but returning. In this state, even the concept of healing transforms. You realize there was never anything broken to fix. The body's struggles were never punishments, but messages. The pain, the fatigue, the illness, they were the body's way of calling you home. They whispered, "Remember me." And now that you have, they fall silent, not because they were defeated, but because they are fulfilled. Ancient writings from the East called this stage the golden body. It was believed that when a person reached complete harmony, their physical form would emit a faint glow. The aura was not metaphor, it was a real field of light visible to those attuned. In China, they spoke of the rainbow body. In Christianity, it was the halo of saints. In Egypt, the Ku, the luminous soul. Each tradition described the same state, the body becoming transparent to spirit, the soul shining through matter. Science may call this biophotonic coherence, but the heart knows it by another name, wholeness. It is said that when this state arises, even the elements respond differently. Water tastes sweeter, air feels alive. The world no longer appears separate or mechanical, it breathes with you. The same formula that awakened your cells now reveals its deeper purpose, to awaken perception itself. For once your body is in harmony, your senses expand beyond their ordinary limits. You begin to perceive energy not as imagination but as reality. In ancient Sufi texts, this perception was called basira, the eye of the heart. They said that when the eye of the heart opens, one sees the divine pattern in all things, not as vision, but as vibration. The same pulse runs through the moon and your blood, through thunder and your heartbeat, through silence and your thought, and the realization humbles you. You no longer wish to control life, you wish to align with it. The formula has not given you power, it has given you balance. It has stripped away illusion and revealed the architecture of truth. You understand now that all of creation is woven by frequencies, each one a note in an infinite song. Disease, decay, despair, these are dissonant notes, born of separation. Healing, vitality, peace, these are harmonies, born of remembrance. The formula was the tuning fork. The vibration of creation itself is the symphony. In that stillness, a sacred silence fills you. It is not emptiness. It is fullness so vast that words disappear inside it. The silence carries wisdom beyond thought. You begin to hear the guidance that has always been there, the whisper of the divine intelligence that lives within. It does not speak in language. It speaks in alignment. When you move against it, you feel tension. When you move with it, everything flows. The ancients called this Tao, Dharma, Logos, Word. It is the same current that births galaxies and heals cells. In the scrolls of the Alexandrian mystics, there is a passage that describes this moment beautifully. When the fire within meets the fire without, man remembers he was never in the dark. You understand it now. The fire was always there, hidden beneath the ashes of forgetting. The formula merely blew gently upon the coals until they glowed again. And in that glow, gratitude arises, not as duty, but as natural expression. You find yourself thanking the elements, the water, the salt, the light. You thank the body for enduring. You thank the silence for holding you. You thank the source not because you must, but because you are it. Gratitude becomes your native language, and the universe responds in kind. Doors open, people appear, Synchronicities multiply. It is as if reality itself is singing back to you. The awakening reveals a paradox. The more you expand, the simpler everything becomes. You no longer seek elaborate rituals or complex formulas. You understand that the most profound medicine is presence itself. A glass of pure water held with intention becomes sacred. A breath taken in gratitude becomes healing. A moment of silence becomes a temple. The same natural forces that once required ceremony now respond instantly to consciousness. And yet, you honor the old ways, for they carried the wisdom through time, protecting it until humanity was ready to understand it again. You realize that every ancient ritual, every whispered prayer, every symbol carved in stone was pointing to this truth, that the divine never left the body. It only waited for recognition. When recognition dawns fully, life changes its rhythm. You act without effort. You heal without trying. You love without fear. The boundaries that once defined you dissolve into the unity of being. You are not healed. You are whole. You are not awakened. You are awake. And in this still golden state, you sense something even deeper, something beyond awakening itself. A space beyond light and shadow, beyond knowing and unknowing. It calls you softly, like the horizon calls the sea. It whispers that the journey is not ending. It is expanding. For what awakens within you now is not just the body or the soul. It is the awareness of the eternal itself. The next breath feels like eternity breathing through you. The next heartbeat feels like the universe remembering its own rhythm. You are no longer walking toward truth. You are truth walking. The awakening is complete. And yet, it has only just begun. The world looks the same, and yet it doesn't. The air feels softer. Colors seem to glow from within themselves. Even silence has texture, a gentle hum beneath everything. You begin to understand that awakening was never about changing the world, but about changing the eyes that see it. The natural formula did not bring you something new. It unveiled what had always been there, life conscious and divine, woven into every breath, every drop of water, every beat of your heart. You stand now in a kind of stillness that does not ask for explanation. It is not the silence of absence, but the silence of presence. The body feels light, like a vessel emptied of noise and filled with light. You realize that every cell is listening, not to command, but to harmony. The pulse within you echoes the pulse of the earth, and you feel it clearly. The two rhythms are one. What was once separate has become seamless. In this sacred quiet, gratitude deepens. You remember every stage of the journey, the curiosity that stirred, the revelation that opened, the transformation that burned, the awakening that illuminated. Each phase was a step through a doorway that led you here, to remembrance. You understand now why the ancients spoke in symbols, why they hid their knowledge in stories and prayers. It was never to conceal truth, it was to protect its purity. Truth is not meant to be studied, it is meant to be lived. You recall the whisper from the first block, that healing begins when the body remembers its song. Now you can hear it fully. It is not a melody you hum, it is the vibration of being itself. It flows through you without effort. Every heartbeat, every inhale, every gesture resonates with quiet perfection. You feel not the need to control, but the beauty of surrender. The formula did not give you mastery, it gave you alignment. There is a passage in an old Aramaic manuscript that says, "When the body and light become one, the soul finds its rest." You understand that now. Rest is not sleep, rest is harmony. It is the end of resistance. The cells no longer fight for energy, they are nourished by coherence. The mind no longer searches for answers, it is sustained by understanding. You, no longer seeking outside yourself, have become the answer you once sought. You sense that your presence has changed. People who meet your gaze feel calm without knowing why. Animals move closer, strangers smile. You have become what the ancients called a vessel of quiet light. You do not have to speak of it, the light itself communicates. It is not loud, it is not demanding, it simply is. And in this stillness another realization dawns. The natural formula was never just for the body, It was a mirror for the spirit. Water, salt, light, and intention, these were reflections of divine principles. Water mirrored purity, the ability to flow and adapt. Salt mirrored wisdom, preserving truth across ages. Light mirrored consciousness, the awareness that animates all things. And intention. Intention was love itself, the bridge between heaven and matter. The formula's ingredients were never separate substances, they were symbols of the universal order hidden within you. You look back at how humanity once sought healing through force, chemicals, surgeries, control, and see now that true healing was always cooperation. Not man against nature, but man with nature. The cells, the elements, the frequencies, all wanted the same thing: balance. Harmony is not a goal. It is the natural state that returns when interference ends. In the temples of early Egypt, there was a final rite given only to those who had completed the full journey. The initiate would stand before a bowl of water and gaze into it until their reflection blurred into light. The priest would whisper, "Behold, the medicine and the healed are one." That is what you see now when you look into the mirror. The seeker and the truth are no longer two. The formula, the elements, the body, the divine, all reflections of the same living field. And yet, awakening brings humility. You see how sacred this balance is, how easily it can be forgotten. You understand that to remain awake is not a task, but a devotion. The body must be honored, nourished, listened to. The earth must be respected, for she provides the elements that sustain you. The light must be welcomed, for it carries messages that guide the rhythm of life. The silence must be cherished, for it is in silence that wisdom speaks. You walk now through the same world, but you move differently. You move with awareness. When you drink water, you bless it, not with words, but with presence. When you step into sunlight, you receive it, not as warmth, but as communion. When you breathe, you remember that the air entering your lungs is the same breath that moves through forests and oceans. The illusion of separation has faded. Life feels like a single organism, and you are both part of it and all of it. The ancients were right. There is a divine architecture beneath everything. You can feel it now, not with your intellect, but with your being. Each choice sends a vibration into the field. Each thought nourishes or distorts the pattern. You understand that health, abundance, and peace are not rewards. They are consequences of alignment. When you move in harmony with the natural frequencies, life responds in kind. When you resist, dissonance arises. This understanding becomes your new way of living. You begin to notice how every act, no matter how small, can be sacred when done with awareness. Preparing food becomes prayer, speaking becomes vibration, rest becomes ritual. Every gesture, every silence, every moment is an opportunity to participate consciously in creation. The formula that once awakened your cells now awakens your life. You no longer seek it as a drink or a mixture. It has become your way of being. You are the formula. You are the resonance that heals. Your thoughts structure the waters within you. Your emotions sculpt the geometry of your light. Your presence influences the field around you, subtly but powerfully. This is not imagination. It is physics dressed in grace. And so you begin to share, not by preaching but by embodying. Those around you feel it. They sense in you something ancient and gentle, something they cannot name but long to remember. And when they ask what changed, you do not speak of formulas or rituals. You simply smile and say, "I remembered who I am." Because that is what this journey has always been, a remembrance, not of something new but of something eternal. The formula did not awaken anything that wasn't already alive within you. It merely dissolved the layers that hid it. And now, standing in this quiet knowing, you feel no need to chase, no need to prove, no need to search. You are home. The old texts often ended with a blessing, not a conclusion, for truth does not end, it continues to unfold. And so, as the candle of this story burns low, you hear the ancient whisper one last time, "May your water stay clear, may your salt stay pure, may your light stay gentle, and may your intention always sing in harmony with the source." You close your eyes. The light inside you and the light of the world merge into one. There is no separation, no distance, no doubt. Only stillness, only peace. Only the quiet certainty that Every atom, every star, every heartbeat belongs to the same divine rhythm. The journey is complete, the awakening fulfilled. The body remembers, the soul rests, and the light continues.